my bundles of energies. Hope you are using your energy for the positive work and doing your studies. Okay, welcome to Dear Viewers. In today's video, I'm starting a new chapter, that is life processes of class 10th, and the topic we'll be discussing today in more detail is autotrophic nutrition, that is basically the photosynthesis, and the other things related with the photosynthesis also we'll be discussing in this video. Let's begin with the positive thought, which says that if you know that you can do better, then do better. Okay, the meaning of saying this, that knowing only that you can do something better doesn't make any sense, okay, or it's will not create any difference. Knowing that you can do better and then doing that better makes the difference. So hope you will do your level best and put your efforts to achieve your goals and targets. Okay, let's begin with the topic, which says that if we talk about the life processes in living organism, so let's understand what are life processes. Life processes का मतलब होता है वो सारी activities या processes जो एक living organism perform करता है जिंदा रहने के लिए, to live. What are processes our body is doing, each and every cell of our body is doing, वो सभी कहलाते हैं life processes. जैसे इसमें क्या क्या आते हैं? When we talk about life processes, it involves nutrition. It involves nutrition, that means we all have to take in something, the nutrients for our growth, survival and different activities. We all have to do respiration so that our bodies can keep on getting energy for different activities. We all, when we take nutrition, we all have to grow. We all have to respond to stimuli. That means we all should feel and we all have to respond to the stimuli we are receiving from our environment. Let it be a change in the sunlight, let it be any touch, let it be any smell, any sense, fine. So, and the next is we all have to do movement. We all show movement. Movement has to be done in different ways. It can be movement of oxygen, carbon dioxide in my body. It can be the flow of blood. It can be the movement of muscle cells to make our different body parts move. And can be even the blinking of my eye. These are all movements performed by us, and plants also show movement, like sunflower turns towards the sun. Some flowers open in the daytime and closes during night time. Fine. So these are all movements which living organisms perform. These are all life processes. And last is one, the reproduction, that one organism will perform all these in his lifetime, but what when he will be no longer after a time duration, like we all have a age for which time duration for which we live. What after us? So we reproduce, that means we give rise to the young ones so that our generation can continue, like our species can continue, otherwise we'll become extinct. Fine. So these are all processes are called life processes. Fine. Let's take one by one in more detail. Today we are discussing nutrition in more details, more specifically nutrition in plants. So when we talk about nutrition, basically what is nutrition? Nutrition is nothing but it is involving all the processes starting from taking in of food to its utilization. हम अपना खाने से लेकर हमारी बॉडी का उसके कंप्लीट यूटिलाइजेशन करने तक का प्रोसेसेस जो भी शामिल है वो सभी आते हैं न्यूट्रिशन के अंदर. एज आई सेड, today we are discussing nutrition in plants, so I'll be taking the nutrition in plants in more detail. So if I talk about nutrition in plants in detail, again in plants also there are two categories, autotrophic mode and heterotrophic mode. Fine. Mostly you're aware that plants can do photosynthesis, but there are some which are dependent on some other processes also for performing their photosynthesis. We'll be talking in more detail about these. Like when we talk about autotrophic, they will be making their food by themselves. Auto means self and trophic means preparation of food. So they are preparing food by themselves. Like photosynthetic, it includes the plants which are photosynthetic. That means they will be making food by doing the photosynthesis. Okay, that means they will be utilizing this energy from the sunlight. Okay, and the next one being the chemo-autotrophic. That means these will be utilizing the energy from the chemicals. Okay, so these we'll be discussing in a little bit more detail. Next can be parasitic. There are some plants which get their nutrients from other plants and then they grow on that. Next, it can be saprophytic, which can be depending upon some other, like fungi we discussed. Fungi absorb its nutrition from dead and decaying matter. So that types include the saprophytic. Insectivorous plants, like we would have studied earlier about the Venus flytrap and pitcher plants. So they depend on another plants for their nutrients and they suck the nutrients. And like for example, when we talk about insectivorous plant, so they, like for example, pitcher plant, so it has its leaf like the shape of a pitcher, and pitcher मतलब एक मटके जैसा, it traps the insects and absorbs some of the nutrients from it. वो क्यों ऐसा करता है? बिकॉज इट्स ग्रो इन अ सॉइल, जिस सॉइल के अंदर सफिशिएंट न्यूट्रिएंट्स नहीं होते हैं. तो क्या करता है वो? उस इंसेक्ट से कुछ न्यूट्रिएंट्स को एब्जॉर्ब करता है. यूजिंग दोज मिनरल न्यूट्रिएंट्स इट मेक्स इट्स फूड. सो ये हो जाते हैं इंसेक्टिवोरस प्लांट्स. Okay, so let's understand few in more detail. For example, when we talk about autotrophic nutrition, सबसे पहले आता है photosynthetic. Photosynthesis का मतलब क्या है? That these plants synthesize organic substances using inorganic raw materials. ये क्या कर रहे हैं? Inorganic raw material को use करते हुए अपना खाना बना रहे हैं. Fine. And what they are using carbon dioxide, they are using water, they are absorbing the carbon dioxide through stomata, and their roots are absorbing the water and minerals from soil, and they are utilizing this in making the food. So that becomes the photosynthetic. Now second is chemosynthetic or chemo-autotrophic, हम इनको कह सकते हैं. इसमें क्या होता है? It includes most of the bacteria like iron bacteria and sulfur bacteria which survive in the soil. Now what happens? They do not get so much of sunlight. So what they do? They utilize the energy from some of the chemicals which are present, and by the breaking down of those chemicals, it gets some energy and it uses that energy to make its food. Fine. So what it's doing? It's gaining it obtains the energy from the synthesis of carbohydrates by oxidizing inorganic compounds. तो ये क्या कर रहा है? ये भी carbohydrates बना रहा है, but not using the energy from sun. It is using the energy from some of the chemicals which are present near it. So ये कहलाते हैं chemosynthetic, और इसमें आते हैं हमारे iron bacteria, इसमें आते हैं हमारे sulfur bacteria. Fine. Okay, now let's understand the more in detail the photosynthesis process. Now photosynthesis process में क्या होता है? You are aware that this is a process which is most essential for our continued existence. क्यों है? Because आपको पता है we all are dependent directly or indirectly for food on plants. अगर plants नहीं रहेंगे तो we will not survive. We will not survive as herbivores will not survive. Herbivores are eaten by carnivores. If there will be no herbivores, then there will be no carnivores and no omnivores as well, because they will not get the plants to eat, neither the plant nor the animals. So omnivores will also not survive. So this is why we say that photosynthesis is the most fundamental process on earth. We need to understand that this is the most fundamental process, and it was one of the most significant evolutionary process जिससे कि plants अपना खाना खुद बनाने लग गए थे. In the beginning, definitely it was algae, cyanobacteria, algae, and then by the continuous evolution, the plants which we see around us now have evolved. But we are trying to destroy them. We are continuously cutting the forest. But we need to understand that it took billions of years to reach the time where we are now. And it has taken years to reach this stage. Fine. Okay. Now let's understand that when we talk about photosynthesis, we have said that this is the most fundamental process. But इसमें होता क्या है? When we talk about photosynthesis होता कहाँ है? So all the green parts of plants, किसी भी plant के सभी green parts which will be having chlorophyll, and you are aware that the green color comes from the chlorophyll pigment. And that pigment, when we talk about pigment, what is pigment? Pigment is a chemical which will be absorbing the light of some particular wavelength, okay, and will not be absorbing some particular wavelength of sunlight. So chlorophyll absorbs all the color and reflect back the green color, and that's why it looks green to us. So plant के वो सारे parts जिसमें chlorophyll present है will be absorbing the sunlight, and plant has to utilize that absorbed energy for making the food. So all the green parts of plant will have chloroplast, and chloroplast will have chlorophyll in them, which will be trapping the sun's energy. Now कैसे होता है? For example, this is a green leaf of a plant. Inside this green leaf, this is a chloroplast structure. This chloroplast is having chlorophyll inside them, and that chlorophyll will be absorbing the sunlight. We'll be studying in this structure in more detail. When we talk about chloroplast, every chloroplast is having a double membrane structure. Fine. And inside here, this is a stroma. This area which is filled by some substance that is called as stroma. And what does this stroma contain? This contains ribosomes. It contains starch inside it. It contains RNA and DNA. And that's why we are aware that this is called one of the organelles in plants that we call as semi-autonomous or self-duplicating cell organelles. इसको हम self-duplicating बोलते हैं because it has its own DNA and RNA, so it contains its own genetic material. That means all the things which are required to synthesize, or the information to synthesize or to control different processes going in, is having that information is in the DNA which is present in it only. Fine. Now let's understand the structure of leaf in more detail, where this all processes take place. Okay, I have taken a part of leaf in more detail for you here. This the topmost part of the leaf, whatever leaf we have in hand, अगर उसका vertical section cut करेंगे, for example ये leaf है, इसका मैंने एक small piece यहाँ से cut किया, vertical section cut किए मैंने, तो vertical section में हम सबसे पहले ऊपर जो layer देखते हैं, that is cuticle. क्यूटिकल लेयर प्रोटेक्टिव लेयर होती है और ये ट्रांसपिरेशन को कंट्रोल करती है. सेकेंड मोस्ट लेयर जो किसके नीचे आएगी, दैट इज एपिडर्मिस. ये जैसे हमारे हमारा प्रोटेक्टिव लेयर है, वैसे ही एपिडर्मिस भी एक प्रोटेक्टिव लेयर होता है जो लीफ पर और प्लांट के सभी पार्ट्स में मिल देगा. इसके नीचे आता है हमारा ये पैलिसेड टिश्यू एंड ये स्पंजी पैरेन्काइमा टिश्यूज. अब ये सब पैलिसेड और स्पंजी पैरेन्काइमा मिला के बनते हैं मेसोफिल सेल्स. इनमें प्रेजेंट होता है क्लोरोप्लास्ट. क्लोरोप्लास्ट जैसे कि स्ट्रक्चर आपने पीछे देखा है. अब ये मैंने क्या किया है, और we will be starting the structure more detail. इसके अलावा लीफ के सेंटर से पास होता है हमारा ये मिडरिब. आप देख रहे हैं ये मिडरिब, और साइड्स में होती हैं ये साइड वेन्स. ये you are aware that this is a vascular bundle. ये हमारा vascular bundle है लीफ का, और साइड वेन्स में इसका ही पार्ट ब्रांच आउट होता है which transport the water and minerals and food items. तो ये जो vascular bundle है हमारा, ये यहाँ पर आप देख रहे हैं, ये this all is the vascular bundle. If I take this green, you can see here this all part is vascular bundle. This part is vascular bundle. और इसमें हम देख सकते हैं xylem is there. These are structures which you can see here. These are xylem. Xylem carry water and minerals. And ये वाला part है हमारा जो small cell है. This is phloem which carry food. Fine. And there are air spaces between. These are the air spaces. This is also air space. Air spaces are there so that the produced carbon dioxide which is produced here will be stored here, and the oxygen produced will be stored here, and the carbon dioxide required will also be stored here. The next, if I take the palisade from here in more detail to study its structure in more detail, when I take this out and I'll take out one chloroplast from it. So what I can see, if I study the structure of chloroplast, it will be having many grana here. You can see these are the many stack of something कि जैसे कुछ एक के ऊपर एक आपने रख दिया, आपको ऐसा नजर आएगा. That all together is called granum. And इसमें प्रेजेंट होते हैं थाइलेकॉइड्स. थाइलेकॉइड्स क्या है, ये एक लेयर इसका ये कहलाएगा थाइलेकॉइड. हर एक थाइलेकॉइड के अंदर फिर हमारे पास बहुत सारा क्लोरोफिल होगा, एंड दैट क्लोरोफिल विल बी ट्रैपिंग द सनलाइट, और वो सनलाइट में जो एनर्जी होती है उसको कन्वर्ट कर दिया जाता है chemical energy में, and that chemical energy will be utilized by the plant for the formation of carbohydrates. That is in the simple step, from the carbon dioxide and from the water, this energy will be used, and the glucose molecule and oxygen will be produced in that process. तो ये जो हमारा लीफ है बेसिकली, या किसी पार्ट का ग्रीन पार्ट जो प्लांट का होगा उसमें यही स्ट्रक्चर्स प्रेजेंट होंगे जहां पर ये रिएक्शंस होती हैं. सो बेसिकली दिस क्लोरोप्लास्ट इज द एरिया वेयर दिस ऑल द रिएक्शंस इन्वॉल्व्ड विद द फोटोसिंथेसिस टेक्स प्लेस. फाइन. Moving further, if we consider take the steps of photosynthesis कि photosynthesis में होता क्या है, what happens during this process. तो सबसे पहला step होता है absorption of light rays by the leaves. जो leaves होती है they absorb the light from the sun. Okay, now remember different plants absorb the different wavelength of light, and some plants in different parts of the world depending on their how much intensity of light they are receiving, वो कुछ टाइम तक लाइट एब्जॉर्ब करते हैं, कुछ टाइम बाद वो अपने स्टोमेटा को क्लोज कर देते हैं और they do not try to do the photosynthesis. For example, if you take example of desert plants में continuous carbon dioxide का absorption means नहीं होता है डे टाइम में, because if they will leave their stomata open, then what will happen? The water will evaporate from them because sunlight is falling, and if the stomata will be open, the water will change into water vapors and evaporate. तो यहाँ पर क्या होता है? Sunlight is falling on the plant, but all the time photosynthesis is not taking place. Okay, we have to keep in mind. Second step is light has been absorbed. Now this conversion of light energy into chemical energy will take place. Fine. Next, this energy will be used up in splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. इसमें hydrogen ion and hydroxide ion formation होता है. Hydroxide ions are very unstable, वो फिर से water में convert होते हैं, and over the time हम बात करें तो hydrogen and oxygen molecules produce होते हैं. Fine, that's a little bit complicated which you will study in higher classes. In a simple way you can say that hydrogen and oxygen are produced. तो जो हमारे पास oxygen which comes out is released during photosynthesis is basically coming from breaking down of water molecule by plant. So you can understand this is one way hydrolysis. So in another words हम कहते हैं कि ये oxidation reduction process है, but you can understand कि water molecule का जब breaking down हो रहा है उसमें जो oxygen produce हो रही है, that oxygen is only released during photosynthesis, on which we all are breathing. Fine. नेक्स्ट आता है रिडक्शन ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इनटू कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स. अब जो वाटर का ब्रेकिंग डाउन हो गया है, वो ऑक्सीजन रिलीज हो गया है, वहां पर नेक्स्ट स्टेप आता है कि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड हाइड्रोजन जो यहाँ पर अवेलेबल हुआ है इसके रिडक्शन से और रिएक्शन होने से और एनर्जी जो हमने ट्रैप की है प्लांट ने उसको यूटिलाइज करते हुए ये रिएक्शन होना. That is 6 carbon dioxide molecule will join with 12 hydrogen. Now here remember the water is not taking part. It is basically the hydrogen ions which are taking part here from here, and this is also formed the OH ions. OH negative ions were also formed. So hydrogen and hydroxide ions, these with the ions will be taking part in the reaction. Fine. And as a result, this glucose molecule will be produced, the oxygen will be produced, and some water molecule will also be produced in this reaction. Fine. So this is one of the basic, and for that you're aware the water is absorbed through the roots, through the vascular bundle present in the roots. It will go into the vascular bundle of the stem. From stem it will go into the leaves of the plant, and from leaves it will go into the different parts of leaves, and that water molecules will be utilized. So this is what happens during photosynthesis. Now let's understand कि plant में photosynthesis में gaseous exchange हो रहा है constantly, because carbon dioxide needs to be taken in, oxygen has to be removed, because oxygen का भी continuous formation हो रहा है, oxygen को भी plant को अपने अंदर से हटाना है और carbon dioxide को absorb करना है so that it can utilize. So we need to understand here one thing. Never get confused between photosynthesis and respiration. Photosynthesis, I'm aware that it's different, but what children normally get confused कि photosynthesis तो डे टाइम में होता है, तो उन्हें लगता है respiration भी डे टाइम में ही होता होगा. So remember that plants do respiration even during the dark and the light. Okay, plants light phase में, that is डे टाइम में, और डार्क फेज जबकि नाइट टाइम है, दोनों टाइम रेस्पिरेशन करते हैं. Yes, remember, but the rate of respiration in green plants during day is much more as compared at the night time. ठीक है, ये एक चीज है जो हमें समझ सकते हैं. Fine, but we need to understand one more thing, that जो gaseous exchange होता है which is taking place during photosynthesis, it is taking place through stomata. We all know that. and at what time it will be taking place is again different in different plants. But we need to understand that stomata closes when carbon dioxide is not required to prevent loss of water from the leaves. ठीक है, अगर हम देखें leaves का structure अगर further detail में जो small, there are millions of stomata which are present on one leaf. लीफ का जो ऊपर का सरफेस होता है उस पर भी स्टोमेटा होते हैं एंड लोअर सरफेस पर भी स्टोमेटा होते हैं, बट ध्यान रखिए वेयर द स्टोमेटा आर प्रेजेंट इन मोर नंबर ऑन द लोअर सरफेस. क्यों होते हैं? बिकॉज ऊपर सरफेस पे हीट बहुत डायरेक्टली गिरती है सन से, तो उसमें इवेपोरेशन ज़्यादा होगा, तो वो स्टोमेटा क्लोज हो जाएंगे और लोअर सरफेस पर ज़्यादा स्टोमेटा होते हैं और वो डायरेक्ट हीट नहीं एब्जॉर्ब कर रहे हैं. सो यहाँ से गैसियस एक्सचेंज मोर इजीली हो सकता है. फाइन. अगर हम स्टोमेटा जो कि यहाँ पर लीफ पर बहुत सारे प्रेजेंट है उसको एक के स्ट्रक्चर को लेकर अगर हम देखें तो हम देख सकते हैं स्टोमेटा के अंदर दो सेल्स होते हैं जो हमारे गार्ड सेल्स कहलाते हैं. इनको हम गार्ड सेल्स इसलिए बोलते हैं क्योंकि जैसे एंट्री एंड एग्जिट ऑफ गैस को गार्ड्स कंट्रोल करते हैं, हमारे जैसे स्कूल के गेट पर या किसी कॉलोनी के गेट पर गार्ड्स आर देयर, सो दे आर कंट्रोलिंग द एंट्री एंड एग्जिट ऑफ पीपल इनसाइड एंड आउटसाइड. सो सिमिलरली प्लांट लीफ के अंदर भी जो एंट्री एंड एग्जिट ऑफ गैसेस है दैट इज कंट्रोल्ड बाय दीज गार्ड सेल्स. सो दीज बोथ आर द गार्ड सेल्स. ये स्टोमेटल ओपनिंग है विच ओपन्स अप. जब ये ओपन होती है तो इसमें कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंटर करती है इनसाइड एंड ऑक्सीजन comes out. तो हमारे यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है? कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड will move inside when the stomata opens up or oxygen will come out and water molecules will also come out. Okay, so remember what transpiration is one of the way in which plants keep themselves cool also. जैसे हमारी स्किन को कूल रखने के लिए, हमारी बॉडी को कूल रखने के लिए भी स्वेट. ओके, जब भी हम धूप में जाते हैं वी डू स्वेटिंग. सिमिलरली प्लांट्स भी ट्रांसपिरेशन करते हैं अपने आप को कूल रखने के लिए, वन रीजन, एंड सेकेंडली टू पंप द वाटर अप. ट्रांसपिरेशन पुल वी हैव स्टार्टेड. ट्रांसपिरेशन पुल की वजह से प्लांट में कॉन्स्टेंटली न्यू वाटर आता रहता है. तो ट्रांसपिरेशन इज अगेन ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट, बट प्लांट शुड नॉट लूज सो मच ऑफ वाटर बाय ट्रांसपिरेशन. तो इसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए होता है कि स्टोमेटा कभी कभी क्लोज हो जाते हैं. फाइन. सो दीज आर द ओपन स्टोमेटा यू कैन सी एंड दीज आर द क्लोज स्टोमेटा. Fine. And these cells are also having the chloroplast. You can see these all cells, stomatal cells, and these other cells that are surrounding it is also having the chloroplast. That means they all do photosynthesis. So this is about the photosynthesis. If you have any other question which I have not covered, please write to me and like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.